Courage is the inner strength, I would say, Raghav, which allows us to be the real me.
You've shared such a lot of wisdom in 60 seconds, but let's unpack this.
Three things. One, what your core values are. And I help them with the framework. Second, what your key strengths are. Okay. And third, most important, are telling about where you need to go, what you need to leave, what you need to pick up, and don't look at others. Go inwards. I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself, not what others expected of me. After the evening assembly, when I was coming back to my school bus, I sat in the window, and that day I was asked to stand up and read my lesson, and I fumbled all over. I had a feeling that how nice it would be if the floor of the bus opens up and the road below opens up and I disappeared, and I don't need to show my face tomorrow.
Welcome to another episode of the Ignite Neurons podcast, a podcast where we dissect human leadership, learn from the human stories of leaders of our times, and try and put them into practice in our own lives. Today, I have the best selling author of the book Igniting Conscious Leadership. This word ignite is very close to my heart as well, and so this conversation was truly heartwarming. Today, I have Sandiip Pandit. He is a life alchemist, a coach, and someone who's touched about 45,000 lives across the world through his work. The conversation that we had was authentic, and we spoke about how you build relationships, how you build a life, how you create the impact that you're destined and you want to do. We also speak about how to get out of this corporate loop if you want to do that and build a life of your dreams. This conversation with Sandeep was full of actionable insights. Get out there, get your notepads out, get that pen out, and listen to this conversation and take notes. In the comment section, do share with me what was your big insight. What was it that you took away from this episode? And one thing, this book, Igniting Conscious Leadership, the foreword to that book has been written by Daniel Goleman, none other than Dan Goleman, who's the father of emotional intelligence. This episode will give you a lot of insights. If you're watching this on YouTube, do not forget to subscribe. It means a lot to me personally and to all of us here at Ignite Neurons. Look forward to seeing how this helps you. Let's now dive into the wisdom of Sandeep Pandit. Hi, Sandeep. Welcome to the show, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation. But what I want to start us off with, Sandeep, if a 8-year-old Sandeep was looking at you right now and having a conversation with you, what do you think will that conversation look like?
I think I always feel that the younger self is always cheering us. Our elder self always has the wisdom, guides through the wisdom. So the younger self will be looking at me and thinking and having the emotions of right, man, good, you were there doing what you're doing. You had the courage to do what you wanted to do, taken some risks. Or he'll be filled with pride and looking up to me with a lot of expectations.
Beautiful. This word, Sandeep, I know I've recorded a few episodes now, and this word courage always comes up in the conversation. What do you think it's about courage that we as human beings get so inspired by, connected by? I don't know what the right word is, but this word courage, what does courage stand for you?
Very simple. I have often, we often feel that courage is something about strength. Courage is the inner strength, I would say, rather, which allows us to be the real me, which allows us to be authentic, which allows us to wear no masks and be who we are in all situations, in that situations of adversities. Be the same to the juniors, be the same to the elders, be the same to wherever we go, we be the same, we be the authentic self. So that is courage for me. And one more thing I would like to add, one more layer to this is it is also about doing what resonates with you and click and trying to find out what your core values are and live your life based on those core values and not look at others and compare yourself with the defined rules of society.
You've shared such a lot of wisdom in 60 seconds, but let's unpack this because this idea of authenticity, this idea of living as if you were your own self, it sounds very easy. And I'm someone who has seen your journey, so I understand the values, and you and I have spoken about this. But for someone who right now feels like they're in a loop, they're stuck somewhere. It seems like, what the hell is happening in my life? How does that person come to this frame of values? Because to them, it's like when I go to my job, I have to be like 9 to 5, be someone. Then I come home, do my duties, and then the weekend comes. So how do you take people out of that loop in a way?
I feel day in and day out, I come across individuals who are kind of stuck in the corporate life, because I was talking about the defined rules of society, right? I was also defined by the rule of society. And the definition of success, I'll talk about later how that transition happened. But when people come to me with the same situation where they're stuck, I help them in one way. I tell them, okay, just decode three things. One, what your core values are. And I help them with the framework, what your core values are. Second, what your key strengths are. Okay. And third, most important, what your life experiences are telling about where you need to go, what you need to leave, what you need to pick up, and don't look at others, go inwards. So my underlining theme to all these individuals who come to me with this question, as you rightly pointed out, is how do I have the courage to come out? I said, simple. The courage is there inside. You just need to go inward, pick these three things, unfold these three areas of your life, and you're already being guided, but you are saying, no, I won't go that path, that way. No, I won't, tread that path. So that's how in a nutshell, this is how I do day in and day out. And the best part is that today I'm on the other side of the table where I needed some help 10 years back or 15 years back. I did not receive it. The fact, I always say that there is no success or failure. There's no failure. There is always success or there is growth.
Hmm.
There's no failure. So if I did not get a mentor at that time who could guide me, I have kind of found out my own path, which works for others now. I've been able to create a framework which I've given in my book as well.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I think I'm resonating with what you're saying. And in terms of values, it's a good platform for us to have that conversation. I typically feel like I'm driven by these five values, which are discipline, excellence, freedom, love, and growth. And these five values to me are they they make life easier. Whether and I often say this also, Sandeep, and it might resonate or not with you here, but I think whether you're doing a 9 to 5, whether you're a homemaker, whether you're a child, whether whoever you are, I think every human being should do the work of finding their values because it just transforms how you're moving in life. What are your thoughts on that?
100% on that, because you spoke about, your question was about working professionals, so I focus there. But
Yeah.
100% with you on this. And in fact, I have even homemakers coming to me. People who have taken a sabbatical, they come to me. Entrepreneurs who have made it big and they have their own firm, but they're not finding that kind of that happiness or fulfillment despite doing what they're doing. So even they come back to me. So everybody, until and unless we kind of unlock that self awareness and leverage that self awareness to our strengths, core values, and life experiences, we would be one of those unhappy people who die with that regret. I wish I lived a life true to myself. I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself and not what others expected of me. So, this is number one regret of the world.
Yeah, it's a powerful statement, and I think what I've also reflected upon, Sandeep, is that once you're in the grind of life, until unless you really pause and maybe have conversations with a coach, a mentor, a guide, even just sit with yourself for that matter, and then meditate if that works, or go for a run. I think the time that you spend with yourself is what allows you to to understand who you really are, and then show it in full strength to the world. How do you think? Do you spend time alone? Do you have a reflection slash introspection practice that you would want to share with our listeners?
Oh, wow. So this is, one of my favorite phrase that I often use is slow down to speed up.
100%.
And I give an example of an bow and arrow. The arrow has to be pulled back on the bowstring.
Yeah.
It has to be held there for some time to gain the momentum and to point in the right direction. And then only when it is released, it goes in the right direction in the momentum that we desire. And the second example I give is that of a cheetah. Cheetah is the fastest mammal on this planet, right? It runs at 120 miles per hour. But have you seen a cheetah running all the time? But
Mm.
when it runs, it actually is focused on the prey. It is focused on the speed. Everything is calibrated so well, and that is what happens when we give rest to ourselves. So slowing down allows us to, of course, as you said, it helps us to reconnect with the true selves, authentic self, and gather the courage to do something that has not happened. And let me give you an example. See, we can keep on talking about must do and to do's and things like that, which you all coaches do. But no, the best part is the example. How in real life this is great for me. In fact, when I was contemplating switching my career from the corporate world of 15 years after my MBA, I worked for 10 years, and my personal quest started after my 10 years of experience. But it went on till my 14th, 15th year, till the time I decided to leave. So between this 10th year to 14th, 15th year, that is the 4 to 5 years period, I call that as a personal quest period. And that is when I had slowed down. That is when I reduced my interactions with regular people. I knew that I'm not going to be like that anymore. And I started associating myself with people, with the people who who were on my new path, right? And also I ignored negativity, doubt, because when you want to turn down to switch from one path to another, is basically you have some vision in your mind, and you know what are the fears which people have around you, and they most probably they will sound out those fear because they want to hear the reasons why they should do it, right? And they want you to answer that. So I didn't want to become that answering machine for them.
Yeah.
I wanted to answer it for myself. So slowing down to speed up is
I think that's a very powerful point, and often say this to my listeners that we should sit and listen to a podcast with a diary and a pen. And I think one thing that they can take away from this episode, and I don't know what else we'll talk about because this is not scripted, but if you can take one thing, then find these opportunities to slow down. Because not even an engine, not even an animal, as Sandeep pointed out, no one can continuously learn and run and run and run and run. So you got to stop and pause. And I also use this example, Sandeep, of in India, we used to, as kids, play with this gulel. I think in English it's called catapult. That's another example. You pull it back to then let go and have it more force. But just taking back to where we started, that 8-year-old Sandeep that we were speaking about, do you have any, do you feel that any memories or any early experiences, Sandeep, that you feel allowed you to be courageous or crafted this journey for you that you're on?
if I miss out speaking about this, it will be not be doing justice to this podcast. Okay, so I'm going to share something which listeners might feel, can this also happen? So I was having a very nice childhood with supportive parents, and I was like extrovert. I would say more than I was not very extrovert, but okay, fine. I used to take the lead in things in my class. But what happened in my grade 5 was I started to stammer. I started to stammer, and I picked it up from one of the neighbor who was like an elder brother, and I started copying him. And being a 10-year-old kid, 8 to 10-year-old kid, I did not even realize what is happening to me. And I could not even speak to my parents and teachers about it. To my parents, I did speak, and they said, no, no, it happens in childhood. But that is not acceptable to me, Utkarsh, because I wanted to be outgoing. I wanted to be there, being out there. And suddenly I was suppressed. I was, receding to the background, and it was agonizing me from deep inside. And there came a time, I still remember, I would like to share this moment which is locked in my memory. After the evening assembly, when I was coming back to my school bus, I sat in the window seat. And that day, I was asked to stand up and read my lesson. And I fumbled all over. And I had a feeling that how nice it would be if the floor of the bus opens up and the road below opens up and I disappear. And I don't need to show my face tomorrow. There was no concept of suicide or anything at that time. So I just wanted to disappear somewhere, vanish, so that I don't have to face this again. So that day and the next day, and that day was ended like that. But the next day, I felt that I need to do something. And within, I think, a week or 2 weeks' time, I found an advertorial in a newspaper, Times of India. It was about a speech pathologist who said in his advertorial that a person with this speech disorder has to go on the stage more often to kill his habitual way of speaking. Now, imagine 10-year-old thinking that, oh my God, so if I have to come out of this, the only way is to cross that boundary, go outside the comfort zone. And that time, who knew the concept of comfort zone? I just knew that I had to risk myself further. So then there were two choices. One, which is painful, or go on the stage and face the public, take the risk of being ridiculed. And nobody used to laugh at me. They used to just be mum when I used to, fumble. Second, more painful thing was option was to be like this for the rest of my life. So I chose the less risky one.
Mm.
Go on the stage. I started taking part in elocution, sports, big time, debate, dramatics, and all that. Only thing I used to do at that time, Utkarsh, was I used to practice for 30 days before the event, and I used to do visualization even when I didn't know the word visualization that time. Who knew about visualization and affirmation and manifestation at that time? No one. 10-year-old kid, imagine. And this is why I say that it came naturally to me. And I used to tune myself for only that stage moment. As soon as I leave the mic, come down from the stage, I used to be the same Sandeep who used to fumble. But my practice of meditation, my practice of visualization, and practice of being conscious, which I'm talking about every now and then in all my sessions, program, books, it roots from this incident where I became conscious, worked on myself for 4 5 years. By that time, I was out of my home, went to a hospital. And when the first vacation happened, when I came back home, my parents said, that thing is gone. I think, what? Which one? So I realized, so a new environment changed it. But the thing is, my 4 5 years of consistent effort of
Yeah.
throwing myself into a risk zone to
Yep.
avoid the bigger risk of being the same for the rest of my life. So whatever I have actually preached, I have actually practiced it.
Beautiful. Wow, there's so much in there I want to unpack. So one is for the international audience who don't really understand what it was to grow up as a young kid in India many years ago. I think dismissal was the first thing. Whatever you go to a parent or a teacher with, dismissal was the first thing that used to happen. And so to be aware that that study is happening, Sandeep, I applaud you on that. And then what I'm also finding insightful is the impact of environment, Sandeep, because when you picked it up, it was because of neighbor. And then through consistent practice, when you went to your hostel, the environment completely shifted and that habit went away. So again, lessons for our listeners. change your environment. If you want to change something about your life, change your environment. Once you've done that, Sandeep is saying consistent effort. Without consistent effort, nothing's going to happen. You have to expose yourself to the fears or the danger or whatever you might call it of being on stage for that moment for Sandeep, and 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 practice to achieve that success in that moment. And once you do that over and over and over again, that's when you fully succeed. That's a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing
One
that.
lesson I would like to add for the parent is who are listening, the parent, because I had a very supportive parent, especially my dad, who used always voice it out to me, like to have a very good self belief. I mean, I don't know how many times I have heard this, him saying this even till this day. Whenever I take this, that sound actually echoes in my head that my dad says that. Okay, my dad has accepted that. For parents, whatever your son is doing or daughter is doing, they are all unique, and that uniqueness is our superpower. So just keep giving them that self belief. They will do the best that they are meant to do. Don't curb them. Don't try to dissuade them from doing something which is out of the league.
Yeah, powerful. And the keyword there is what you said, Sandeep, very softly. So they will do what they're meant to do. And this voice in the head was coaching someone, Sandeep. She's a senior product manager in a company in California, and she would say that I'm unable to speak to my manager, and I'm unable to speak to my manager, and I'm unable to raise my voice against my manager, even when I know that they're not doing the right thing. And through coaching, what emerged for them was that as soon as they try to go to the manager, they realized that when they were 8 years old, their mother used to tell them that, "Oh, you're not coming first in class. Are you even worth anything? Why are we paying so much to have you in a big school?" And that statement still echoed as they tried to raise their voice again. And these things stay with the what we speak to our children, stay with them for the rest of their life.
Yes, yes, and I will also add to this. There was an NLP session which I was doing
Yeah.
to someone, a lady who was who used to get friends with males. But the ninth time she was told that you're good as a friend, and she was looking for a partner who can be a lifelong partner to her. And she came to me after her ninth such conversation, and when we actually did her NLP, I took her back to her early days, and that is when she said that I was not planned to be in this world, and I heard that conversation when I was very young. And she was, I mean, see, mirror neurons, right? We feel the way and we project that to the other person. So she was, continuously being rejected.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the awareness. I think we've moved from talking about helping executives to now almost parenting in a way. I think that's one thing that parents also need to be very aware of their emotions. And one thing that used to happen with me, Sandeep, is that I would not in any way scold my children, but I started to realize, and this was a few years ago, that after 10 p.m. something were to happen and I would be short tempered, and I would realize like what the hell is happening with me. So one day I scolded my younger one, and the next and he cried to sleep, and I was upset. The next morning, I realized that what was happening, and I realized that after 10 o'clock, I am extremely tired. They still have high energy and they want to play, but I don't have the energy left anymore. So I apologized to him on the next day, which again, as a parent, is I think every parent should try and do that at least once in their life, and they'll realize how empowering that might be. I apologized to him and I told him that after 10 o'clock is one time when I'm extremely tired because of the whole day.
Yeah.
And that's one time I will not be able to fully engage with you. So, best is for us to both sleep. And he's agreed to it. And now that's a practice. But I think very provocative things that you're saying. I want to have a skip to the next phase of the journey. And this word, the Ignite Your Spark for me and Igniting Conscious Leadership for you. That's the title of your book, Sandeep. What emerged? Why did you think of writing the book, and then why should someone say pick up that book? What's in summary special about it?
So as I touched upon this aspect of self-awareness, which helped me to come out of my habitual way of speaking in my early childhood. And I have seen that every 10 years, the orbit of my life has changed. In the 10th year, this happened. In the 20th year, I was in college or in the hostel. And suddenly I thought, okay, I was a topper in my 12th. And when I went to the college, I was exploring life because I'm a person who's very open to worldly, to the views which come and, imbibe that into my new way of living. So I was trying to explore life. So that happened in my 20th year. And 30th year, again, one more change happened is what, yeah, the personal quest began. So all these things actually gave me one theme, and that is be self aware. And everything, and what example that you spoke about of, how you spoke with your son, and you were self aware that you are getting angry at, at the end of the day. And the second self awareness that you leveraged it was at the point where you actually spoke with him, right? You had a conversation with him. One, I realized that if I'm self aware, I'm able to see these trends of my life. What if I can share this theme in certain format with individuals who are just living like a bumblebee hitting from one world to another, not getting anywhere, right? And most of the corporate professionals, and I would not only say corporate, any working professional, and sometimes even non working professionals, they are living day to day. Okay. So, one reason was that. And second reason was to make the workplace a little better place to live, to work, right? A happy place to work. I had faced out of my 15 years by work, I had seen only two or three good leaders. And I mean, sorry to say that, but even that rate is good today. Even now, we don't even see that. So, and whenever I used to not see a good leader in front of me, I used to always wonder what makes them behave like that. So, when I came on the other side, I thought, okay, whatever is in my control, let me write about it and let me tell you this book, Igniting Conscious Leadership, which later got endorsed by Dr. Daniel Goleman. I didn't know that, it will happen by the end of my writing, but it got endorsed because I've given a framework where I have actually, which I understood that now this book is going to change the way how people is going to approach their work and life together. So while I was writing this book, I did not refer to any leadership book so that I do not get biased, prejudiced by some other framework. And I slowed down to speed up the same thing that I practiced. I slowed down. I actually paused, put my business on the pause mode for 3 months to write. Yeah, 3 months just to write. Used to go to office, write, come back, next day go to office, write. And for the next 3 months after that, I just did editing. Okay, so coming back to the main question is one, the regular change in my orbit in my life every 10 years. And if I did not have that little bit of conscious element to my life or that self awareness, I wouldn't have noticed that trend and wouldn't have made that shift, right? Leverage that shift to my advantage. Second, I didn't find good leaders in my 15 years of my career. And so I thought that let my writing make little bit of a ripple, a small ripple in that ocean of working professional.
This idea that you're sharing about, it's such a fuzzy thing. Sometimes it feels, Sandeep, and I have my understanding also, but I want to kind of hear your perspective. This idea of what great leadership is. If you were to summarize this and I know we can have like a full podcast episode on great leadership, but what do you think, according to you, is great leadership?
Okay. How I have visualized this, I have looked at from the lens of conscious leadership. Okay. And I always feel that a conscious person, and today big leaders are talking about this, they're talking about compassionate leadership, they're talking about it in different words, but it means the same. Okay. So basically, a good leader, effective leadership, I would say, not good or bad, effective leadership is about being heart centered, purpose driven, values focused, which is more allied instead of being combative and aggressive, where the leader is aware of what's happening inside, what's happening in the environment, and taking his team along with him in a purposeful and intentional path with growing together, not only growing him alone or her alone, but growing together. So I repeat, it is a heart centered, purpose driven, values focused leadership style, which is more allied rather than combative or aggressive, where he's purpose and intention driven, and together the whole team and the leader group.
It's a very, very holistic definition of leadership. For those who are either emerging leaders or are on that journey, they should just rewind this podcast and listen to that definition, because I think it's a very, it can, it includes the heart. And someone, I recently recorded a podcast with Sandeep, and where they said that love is at the center of leadership. And I think that is a very important conversation to have, which the world is not having enough. But then you said purpose, the values, and it's more aligned where you grow the whole team and not just yourself.
Okay.
Beautiful. I love that.
Thank
As look at the orbit forward, Sandeep, you said how your life's orbit changed every 10 years. And I think I have a theory for it too, where my life orbit has changed almost after every 8 years. So I think I need to write a book on that too. So I'm going to take that away from you. But as you look at the next few orbits that your life will take over the next few decades, if you were to jump to that 85-year-old, 80-year-old Sandeep,
you.
and if that Sandeep had one advice for you, or that Sandeep turned around and said, Sandeep, over the next decades, do this, what would to you?
I'll try to build a global community of conscious individuals across age groups. I'm just envisioning have soul in harmony centers, physical centers,
Mm,
which is more experiential rather than theoretical, because I don't believe in frameworks. I believe in experiences. And this is what the whole journey of soul in harmony has been. We are given experiences, we are given retreat. Okay, coming back to the question, multiple centers all across uh, a global community across age groups, make self-awareness, bring self-awareness in the mainstream, be it whatever you're doing, be it a homemaker, or maybe as I mean, in fact, I would also like to have an NGO where why only rich should have all this. It should be also the underprivileged who should get if they're not able to have the education, the bookish education or the other education. Let them have the life skills. I would
yeah.
like to have an NGO by the side where the underprivileged are gaining from the life skills and making the best out of it and optimizing their resources. At the same time, having for-profit organizations, centers where people come and feel that this is a center, this is the place where I can find like-minded individuals,
Mm,
grow myself, and
mhm.
be with the best of the people. Because see, today, Utkarsh, I like to bring one point here that in 14 years, one challenge which my clients have told that when we come and meet and we do the sessions, that is fine, but we again come across the same situation in some other way in our life, like happens, and we are back to square one. But to address that concern, we thought that we have to build a community where there is not only one Sandeep.
Yeah.
That there should be multiple, replicas of the same, and that is happening. I mean, so I would like to have many Sandeep doing the authentic work that today, which I'm trying to do. I've done only little, but yes, maybe the effect keep on growing exponentially.
Oh, absolutely. No, thank you. That's such a beautiful dream to have. And with small drops, you'll build the ocean. And I look forward to witnessing that journey. And hopefully, this podcast will also touch a million lives, and they'll all be seeking this. I think it's a really important idea of building this conscious leadership, because once you're self-aware, it's just a superpower. Amazing. Thank you, Sandeep. Truly appreciate your time. To our listeners, all the links that you can reach out Sandeep for will be in the show notes. So go ahead and connect with him on LinkedIn and beyond. And looking forward to many other conversations, Sandeep. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me on the show, and I would love to take this forward in whichever way possible.
Absolutely. Love that.
All the
Thank you.
best to you, Fish. Bye.
That's a wrap for today's episode of the Ignite Neurons podcast. If you found value in this, here's what I recommend. Take out a paper or a diary and just put down one actionable, one thing that you can change about your life because you listen to this podcast. I'd really appreciate if you could share that in the comments below, because I'd love to see how it's impacting you or not. If you're on YouTube and watching this, then like, share, and subscribe, and please make this wisdom go viral. And if you're someone who loves your podcasts on the go, then Spotify and Apple Podcasts are your go-to places, or wherever you're listening to this, just like, share it with a friend, and leave a comment, because I'd love to engage, love to have a conversation with you. Until next time, till we meet again, keep those neurons ignited, stay curious, keep learning, be someone who embraces a growth mindset, and I look forward to seeing you very soon.